Okay, now it will record, even though I got this all the way over here. It didn't do it for some stupid reason. So, anyways, I just got done watching the Manual Espresso Machines by Lance Hedrick. So that was fun. But I was like, oh wow, yeah, the Amera can easily just be inductively heated and then be used with a like basic bitch geared electric motor that just turns the handle, which means you get pressure profiling and everything off an Arduino and some programming, which is pretty cool, truthfully, especially when it's like it has massive preheating issues. Like, I don't like that at all. That bothered me a lot, actually. But I was like, all right, so if I was going to make something, seeing some of the flaws that were there and seeing, some of the issues that I would personally myself have, I was like, all right, so it's a spring around something like an Amera that ultimately you crank along the side. It has a vertical rod. One side has a gear and the other side has another gear. And effectively, as the rod goes up, well, more specifically, as the spring is compressed, will then go back up. That rod goes up. That gear then spins and then makes that. And because and then goes down, another rod for the plunger system that's inside the sleeve. It's only going to go to a portafilter, and then you can just stick it onto any of your cups, right? It's electrically resistively heated, like we do with electric burners, instead of, or kettles, electric kettles. That way it's way easier, and I don't have to fucking deal with it. Get some gaskets like they do with the flare, and that should work, right? But, not fully finished. That cranking system that I talk about, right? It's like, well, all right, but I can still keep cranking, and there's going to be a need, if you want to hold it, to be able to ultimately, have a sheath around this, so you're not going to get pinched by the spring. But otherwise, so long as you keep cranking it, because it's kind of like an old lever spring, right? But it's like, all right, but that means that you can maintain a higher degree of pressure or a longer degree of higher pressure and pressure profile off manual cranking, right? You don't have to keep it constantly on the electric burner, and you don't have to constantly keep continually cranking, right? And that means it's far more easy for most people to use, which is the whole reason why I thought about it. It's like, well, it's going to be preheated, it's going to be able to be insulated, and, that's basically a stainless steel or whatever on the inside, and then the outside's just a bunch of vacuum stuff. You know what I mean? You can put like the spring on the outside of that, so it's, basic stuff is then going to be a sleeve on the outside, right, which is aluminum if you want it to look really super nice. Some metal of any kind really usually will do it, but wood would be pretty simplistic. Get old baseball bat, old style, ones that you can just repurpose and use that, or some bowling pins, right? Like, as long as it's roughly the right shape, then it'll work, and that'll effectively be pretty easy to source. That's kind of what that was about. And then stainless steel is pretty easily sourced for a 58 millimeter size sleeve in terms of a tube, right? It's pretty simple. Then threading is really just the ears. I'd go with the 3 ears, not the 4 ears, the 3 ears, because I prefer 3 ears. It's gonna have to come with, like, I had the worst experience with the Normcore funnel that's supposed to go on the outside and not have that little thing that he talks about that annoys me just as much for the funnel that's on the inside, and I have to fucking fix that. I hate that shit. I hate it so much. So it's like, just clip it to the ears. That's all you gotta, like, and I saw a couple of those and I love that, but it's like, no, they're okay, but the main issue is that they're not sealed. I want a little frickin' ring, a little gasket, the one that the Normcore was for my 51 millimeter basket, has a massive gap. It's actually really kind of like maybe millimeter or whatever around what the edge is, but it's so significant that it means it slides around. And then for some reason, the stainless steel basket I got, and it is steel, check that, is non-magnetic. So it just wants to fucking slide around, and it's sloppy, and it just low tolerance, and boom, ding, 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 ding. I'm just like, fuck this. So I didn't like that, obviously. And I'm looking at this ear one that clips into that, and it's like, that's totally possible, you know, to get in there. I don't want anything that's going into the basket. I want it around and very tightly tolerated. And a little bit of a seal really just turns into like, well, yeah, no, so there are magnets there, but what we're really talking about is like a little silicone, you know what I mean? Like a real thin silicone, you know, that's like effectively, you bolted in with the magnets, you know what I mean? Or, well, bolted, right, you know? But it'll work, and I don't care, because the ears just need to be the right tolerance, and then it's just, you know, turn it, twist it, it's on, and I don't have any issues now with this fricker just popping on around, and I don't like that. I don't like any of that. That bothers the hell out of me. Like, it does. It's like this sloppy mess that just freaking falls over. Normcore is supposed to be one of the good ones. Apparently not on this one. Their tolerance is bad, so I wouldn't get it. The depth of like where the magnets are and what's supposed to go around it, too shallow. The tolerance around where the basket is, too wide, too low tolerance, you know, sloppy. And then they could just fucking, like they do with the 3D printer ones, put the little dog ear, the little indents for the ears, you know. I was looking online, and there's like these 3D printed ones, and it's like, that's perfect. That's all I need. I don't really have to care about this, you know what I mean? And you need it to be metal and all this. No. I don't give a crap about it, truthfully. But like, a lot of people will. And so doing that will be a more premium experience, right? And so it's like, whatever, just do it. You know what I mean? So just get it done. And then like the puck screen is, he talked about it. I was like, oh, I need a vibrational cleaner. That was an ultrasonic cleaner. And I was like, I just run it through with pressurized water and a little soap. Like I soap it down first, like, and I wipe it. And then, like, I just run it again, you know, after I let it heat up, and then just push it through. I bet you it's probably not working perfectly, but at the same time, it's treated me well. Best I can. I'm not going to do the steam on thing. Like, I can't get this. I'd like to get an ultra. You know what I mean? Like, I like to do all that. But anyways, got to come with the puck screen. It has to do that. The screen would be a 2 separatory screen. So it's like, what that means is that there is a outer side, you know, connecting point to these 2 plates. I've used 2, but 3 would be pretty easy, as 1 would be the stable, and then you can move the 2 off of that, right? And then if you have holes that are, you know, like that, then you effectively can understand when they're sealed, and they're really close, and then you hit the switch and it spins open and it's pressurizing itself. It then slightly opens, and then it allows for a little bit of a space and distance, and because it's still countered, right, it goes down, it goes over, it goes down, and it goes over, right? That gives you a very effective screen, you know, dispersion, right? But that means you have to get basically what we do with baskets. You know what I mean? A bunch of little perforational holes, and it's like, yeah, no, that, yeah. But then I was just like, well, what's the puck screen at the bottom, anyways? If they're going to do it in the Flare 50, you know, innovation is at its finest is what it is. When someone does something good, why not just reuse it? So it's like, is it so terrible to just make like a bunch of different like foamy styles of like, let's say it was the aluminum gel, you know, the aerogel stuff. So like aluminum foam is effectively what it was, and it's like, Nah, it first off doesn't go through very quickly, so it's like, that's my first thought, right? You gotta get the bad ones out, right? You gotta get them out. So it's like, no, that wouldn't work. But you know it will. Literally, effectively the same thing, but with essentially a electrically resistive plate that's essentially just a ceramic, right? So it's like we can make a ceramic that's like really, really mini tiny little holes, right? That are going to be very evenly made to disperse, right? So they usually have these jets that spray off like that, and that's neat, and I like the idea, but it comes at a cost of disordered and fraying and all this other stuff. Effectively, all it means for any layman's individual is the water coming out now no longer maintains its degree of ability to properly disperse its pressure, right? It gets concentrated in these one little areas and it tries to spread out, but it doesn't really do it, right? Which is the whole point of a puck screen, right? So, a way to get around that often is to essentially create what is the equivalent at those pressures of a bunch of water tension. And so when it does this, it'll fill up a given gap around that, so like it kind of hangs like a little big drop, and then it wants to, fall, right? Well, we're not going to be having it fall. Instead, that gap, we're looking for it to get fairly close, of course, but we don't want it to be too close. So we're going to allow for it to start filling like a hydraulic fluid, okay? But then once it creates the connection, it then evenly distributes consistently at the same pressure. Now, the way to do that often is, unfortunately for everybody else, a soak. You have to soak something. That's right. Yeah. So, like, that ceramic is effectively, like, kind of not in the water. It's a fiberglass. And so it's going to balloon up. It's going to fill in that space. And then it's going to go and constantly soak underneath what's there, right? Evenly dispersing all of the water at the pressure it's at. It's like, it's a screen, like the old cloth screens that we used to have for pour-overs, right? But fuck pour-overs, apparently, right? Yeah, they're so terrible. Not really. They're great. But, like, using that technology in a new way. Fiber optics, fiberglass, are effectively the same thing, and we've known how to weave things for a really long time, winky winky, hey hey, right? So it's like, might as well. Nothing says that two of these little plates and then a third screen underneath that balloons up as a result of that wouldn't work. Now, granted, we're also talking about a certain thickness, and then it's going to balloon a certain thickness more to gain a soak drip, but it will still work. No reason to really care too significantly about that part. It's the fact that they usually have a screen, a puck screen underneath. So, like, that might actually cause it to fray and break. So, like, I'd give you 3 of them. So, that'd be easy enough. And a little stand probably will help you, although I don't, for me, it's like the stand is your cup. So I feel like that would probably do it. You know what I mean? Like, just put it in there and then little cranks. I don't know. Personally, that just seems like it'd be really easy. You know what I mean? Some people might not agree, but like that's, them, because you have a bunch of 50 millimeter portafilters, like a bunch, right? So any of them will do it, right? So it's up to you. The screen, they're like, no, I don't want to. And it's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck what you want. This is how my design works. So, of course, it's going to go in there. That's how that works. But no, at the expense of weaving some fucking fiberglass. Yeah, I don't give a fuck about you. It's very, very small cost. It's super small. Get out of here. Get out of here. I don't care. And then it's like, same thing with like, oh, there's a metal rod and a gear with a bearing. Like, so impossible. You don't have those things last forever. Like, oh, it's so expensive now. You know what I mean? And that's just really a gear. The reason why I said a gear to a gear is because that is a larger gear to a smaller gear back to a larger gear. And what that does is it creates a given type of torque profile. We want to create an overdrive that allows for a certain torque from that given spring. And so the spring can be smaller than what your traditional big boy thick chunker lever espressos give you. And you can make more of them, right? Simple stuff, which means they don't have to be this, big. They can be much longer, right? And instead of having a bunch of space, you only need to have that space be there to help you create that given torque and pressure. That's all it is. So you store a given amount, then you're able to crank it much easier, then you're able to ultimately have, with the electrically resistive heating, temperature profile surfing and pressure profile surfing with a very consistent bed profile that you force effectively to stay there. It's like, screw you, be exactly flat, do that. Like you stare deeply at it like, I'm disappointed that you had channeling. My goodness, could you even imagine? I did all this work. And so like that's basically what it's around. It's like, I was looking at the robot and they're like, they like it because it's so easy and simple, the tapering basket, right? And it's like, well, behold, a screen that makes it very, very simple to always get pretty much consistent results for what it's worth, and you don't have any channeling issues anymore, which is a positive. If you don't know why that's the case, a good way to put it is take effectively like a sponge, right? And then if you squeeze more water into a sponge, then with a plate underneath it, of course, like you're gonna put like a little basket, and then you'll have like a little screen of some kind, and then you put it's already a soaked sponge, right? And then like you pour more water, and then you put a plunger, and you look at it, and it's like, what do you know? It evenly distributes as easily as it can for the path of least resistance for it to be as spread out as much as it could be. Because that's how pressure wants to work. And so if it's a little bit dipped over here and a little bit higher over here, it goes inwards, and then it all flows naturally down, right? Because, of course, it traveled a little bit sooner over here. Nope, it traveled evenly. Instead of water as a flat, and then it goes down, and then that then rushes over here, and it causes a bunch of swirl or whatever else, and you have to try right? Which is why pre-infusion started becoming a thing. So it's like, if your bed isn't perfect and it starts a little bit shifting, and it's like a little bit of fluid, it's trying to align the particles as it's flowing through, and then you go, stay! No more do you need to do that. You know what I mean? That's effectively all it is, right? So if you get around that by simply making a screen like that, then it easily solves the issue. But you can still get that very same reaction by still pre-infusing a little bit. It's not a bad thing to do. So anyways, moving on from that, it's like, all right, so any cup that can fit that kind of size of opening, giggity wink, right, will work, right? So, but then the other real issue for some are most likely, I don't like the idea of a spring. Oh my god, there's a sleeve. I have to put a, like, what is this, a USB-C to a fucking wall wart on my fucking espresso maker. And it's like, yeah, bitch, go fucking somewhere else, I guess, maybe. That sounds really cool to a lot of us, actually. And you're lame now, and no one likes you. You know what I mean? Like, get with the times. Yeah, that's a fuck you, effectively. Whoever that is, really. Like, fuck you. You there. You know what I mean? Get the fuck out. Don't care. But the other side of it for me is the rod. The rod link extends when you do that. And while it looks cool, and I'll like that, and it's going to be able to be aligned, which is fine. You know, because you can have multiple sides. You can have 2 or 3 or 4, however you want to do it. Personally, I would do 3 because that's more than good enough. And that allows for effectively a certain resistance and parasitic loss, which means spring rate and more profile, which means a certain crank rotational speed if you want to, you know, surf or do other things. Then it's like, well, since everybody knows about the fucking Bluetooth and the pressure gauge, it's like, how do you do a pressure gauge? And I'm like, oh, my dear sweet child, unlike you, I don't do idiots. Behold, the screen that you said was so dumb. Remember that? Yeah, no, this is effectively just this. That's all I need. It's like, you know, a little stuck out part, and it's like, look, fucking pressure gauge. Here's a temperature gauge there too, right at where the screen is. Hey, right? That's great. And then it's in the basket. You can't get better pressure and temperature knowledge, right? So, like, that's going to work just fine. He's like, all right, well, there's a Bluetooth, right? And it's like, yay! The bass, if you want it, can come with a gram scale. Why not? Fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm already over it. Like, I'm already like, yeah, no, yeah, Bluetooth, whatever, here's an app. Yeet. You know what I mean? Like, It's like, meanwhile, me, it's like, you can try my best with what I have, and, you know, I don't have any Bluetooth apps or any of the measurement or any of that. I just go like, it's about the right gram, and it's about the right, I'm looking at both of them, and that seems good, and, you know, the flavor is good, I'm seeing the flavor is good, you know, as I'm stressed about all of it, you know, it's like, you don't know what I've done, you know, it's been through so much with me, you know, that kind of thing. So anyways, not really that intense about it, truthfully, but there's those feelings, and I'm over-embellishing, obviously, for comedic effect. But still, it's what it is, and it's fun for what it's worth, and it's not hard to get a Bluetooth at all. You know what I mean? Especially when it's like, no, tell me more about how to temperature and all that. And then here's the app, you know, right? And I don't really have to care anymore. I use theirs or whatever. Right, because that'll probably work just fine. Collaborate a little bit. Like, hey guys, this is what this means. And then that's really all it is. I just want to get out of the way. There's going to be a pressure gauge and a temperature sensor. Because I want that. I hate that I don't know what the temperature is. That bothers the fuck out of me, actually. And then it's like, right, well, here's a third nipple for your you know, if you want to buy from them, or this is the other one that's over here, that's the Bluetooth sensor, right, which goes to the Bluetooth gram scale, which is water, you know, resistant, all that, right? And so, like, that'll probably be just fine. Here it is, $250. You know what I mean? Like, you know, spring is, you know, cost you, the gear, bearing, gonna cost you, you know, rod can cost you a little, you know, some gasket can cost you something, you know, it's gonna be a little, you're gonna need some valving, of course, so like as you crank it, it's gonna take in the water, you know, leave it for a bit if you don't want to just like have some preheated water, and it's like, here's the temperature, and it's like, hey, the green light goes, you know, burr, and says do the switchy switch, and then pour your shotties, right? And then crank if you want that amount, right? So, like, then you know, and it's not up to you being a smart person, it's up to you just doing what it tells you to do, and that's all it takes. Anyways, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification and share it, please. You know, comment. I'd love the interaction, except for that one person that's like being subtly negative, which I did a whole, you know, comment about that and everything, and it's been consistent in my comments for way too long, and I don't like that. Yeah, I'm bothered. Anyways, let's see if this works. Does it work? Did it work? Let's see if this... It worked. It did not work. It did not, actually. It's still recording. But, okay...